So tell me, 2018 is when you had the idea.
Didn't have the idea in 18, had the discovery in 18.
As a discovery.
It changes color based on acidity. And that's kind of what Unicorn does different is as soon as you add anything acidic to it, like if you were to add a little soda water to one of your shots, you'll see that soda water is going to turn it purple.
It's really good.
As good as sipping any smooth tequila.
The color changing element is really cool, but having it come from a natural ingredient, I think, is a big sell.
Rick is an innovator. Anything that he's doing is not short-term thinking. So I think that's kind of a lot of the maybe challenges that people get worried about the decision. Does it make sense today? Does it make sense in the next year? These decisions play out over time, right? And that's where the value gets generated over 3, 4, 5 years, whether you're talking about real estate investments, you're talking about investing in a business like this.
Building the next generation of technologies and things like that. That is standing out from the crowd. That is celebrating change. That is a lot of the things that is all natural. That is authentic growth.
The audience doesn't really know much about your background and the fact that you were in tech and then obviously you become an entrepreneur and, you know, going through that process. What was that like for you to kind of jump into that entrepreneurial world?
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Seattle Living and Wealth Building Show. Happy 2024 to you today. What is this? January 18th. So it's our first episode of the year. Hope you all had a great holiday. Got some of the usual suspects here for you. Michael Dapper, Justin Day. But today, here's why you're going to want to watch this show. If you're interested in investing and want to know how to get started, you're going to want to watch. If you're working in a corporate job, bored in tech, but you have this entrepreneurial spirit and you want to start something that is of passion to you, you're going to want to watch. And if you have any interest in what's happening in the beverage industry, the spirit industry in particular, and what some of the trends are, we've got the most innovative guy here. He started Unicorn Distillery here in Seattle. We've got a tequila, we've got a vodka. We're here on site, on location at his distillery, and we're going to sip a little bit and talk about it and talk about all things Seattle living and wealth building. Thanks for being on the show, Rick. Let me not do this injustice by trying to describe your path and what Unicorn is all about. So why don't you start there and give us a little background and tell us who you are.
Yeah, I guess, really the discovery of a kind of a fun tea flower and its path to becoming legal in the U.S. was the catalyst for the brand and wanting to be part of America's discovery of this cool new ingredient and fun, playful way to kind of play with your vodka and tequila drinks. So, yeah.
All right. Well, sounds delicious. So it's a little bit chilly right now. So we're going to dive right into, let's show the audience what makes this Butterfly Pea tequila unique and different. And, why is it here in Seattle of all places?
Yeah, well, Seattle's picked mostly because of our soft water quality. We have an incredibly great water source here. Go ahead and open that up. And that's some soda water here. This is some tonic water. And what's cool about the butterfly pea flower is, without getting too geeky on it, is it changes color based on acidity. And so when it's in our spirits or when it's in water, it'll be a real pretty blue color. And that's kind of what Unicorn does different is we make our spirits really close to the pH of water. But as soon as you add anything acidic to it, like if you were to add a little soda water to one of your shots, you'll see that soda water is going to turn it purple. But this is some tonic water, and it's much more acidic, so it's going to turn it pink.
Oh,
and
interesting.
So by hitting the different colors, with different, lemonades or sodas and things like that, just becomes a fun way to play with your vodka, tequila, margarita, martini.
And to clarify, I mean, this blue here is the tequila. I mean, this isn't anything added to it. This is just the tequila. Yeah, well, tequila with the pea flower, right?
So the special ingredients is this butterfly pea flower, correct?
Correct, yeah.
And does it change the flavor profile, or how did you decide?
It gives it a little bit of a floral note, but the regulators call it a food coloring or a dye, and it definitely adds a little bit of a flavor, like a floral flavor, but it's by no means like an off-putting flavor or anything like that. A little grassy, a little earthy, a little floral, kind of a note. So yeah, cheers.
Okay, I'm gonna take a sip straight as is and see how it goes here.
Yeah.
Michael just went full on.
Okay. Well,
I'm sipping.
That sipping it,
it's really good.
As good as sipping any smooth tequila that I've ever had.
I would agree.
That's incredibly smooth. There's no
Yeah.
Where's my line?
Yeah.
Right?
And that's because of the acidity, being that our spirits are at that pH of water. When you drink water, you notice you don't go, you're like, there's no bite to water, right? But when you do add acidity to it, that's where you're starting to get that bite. Most tequilas are pretty acidic. We partnered with a distillery down in Mexico to work on one that we could get to be closer to the pH of water so that we could match our vodka's blue color. And yeah, that's kind of now you're getting into the geeky, the science of beverage. But yeah, that's kind of what makes the unicorn magic work.
What's the proof on the tequila?
All of the spirits are at 40 proof, so regular full strength.
Yeah.
Or sorry, 80 proof,
40%.
Yeah.
And it's a Blanco tequila.
It is
originally, correct?
It's cleared tequila when we import it in from Mexico, and then we add a little bit of the water from here, and so it technically becomes a bottled and produced in Seattle when we do that. And going back to why are we here? It's Starbucks is here, Red Hook is here, and water off the Cascade Mountains and the Sierra Nevada mountains are known for making great beers and great spirits and wines, etc. And this is a great region to bring that soft water to these unaged spirits.
I agree. This is awesome.
Yeah,
it's really good.
Smooth.
Yeah.
So I have a very basic question. What is pea flower? What's butterfly pea flower?
Yeah, so pea flower is a family of flowers.
Okay.
Right, like roses are a family of flowers. And then the butterfly is just the type within the family, right? And the butterfly flower is known for producing, I'll get geeky, it's a pigment called anthocyan. And this pigment is unique to the butterfly pea flower. And this is the pigment that's reacting to the acidity. And so by importing in these tea flowers, which we get organically grown in Thailand, they import them in. It's a big co-op of farmers. And then we just put big 40-pound bags together in the tanks you guys saw earlier.
Oh, wow.
To extract that into the spirits.
Right.
It's fascinating.
It is.
Yeah.
I'm like curious how who discovered that it that natural
Pigment.
chemical reaction would happen. But it's cool, I think, for people, especially for like a Seattle market, or a lot of markets are changing, but people, the color changing element is really cool, but having it come from a natural ingredient, I think, is a big sell.
Yeah, I think that's the better for you movement that's going on with our generation of brands, right? And that's really why we wanted to create our own brand that celebrated this blue, purple, pink thing, because it was an all natural way to have fun. There's no sugar, there's no color preservatives. We're not putting any glycol or anything weird into the spirit to somehow make it do this. It's just Mother Nature, and we're just helping nursing it along and giving it, a matte black or matte white bottle to protect it from sunlight and that kind of stuff.
Well, I have a few female friends, and they're definitely more into health and not drinking old fashions and whiskey Manhattan. Trying to sort through the hundreds of different ryes and bourbons out there, and they've been on this tequila soda trend. So
They're in.
Clean, no calories.
Yeah, for sure.
Have you felt like people have been drinking?
Yeah, you're working a tequila soda shot at the moment.
Tequila soda shots, reminding me of some of my holiday fun I had recently.
There you go.
Absolutely. Tequila sodas are my go-to, especially in the hot months.
Okay, I'll finish this, guys. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cool.
Oh.
Yeah, and so obviously, I'll grab that. With the fact that you've got, I've seen the color changing gin before. Was that a part of the interest for you to go ahead and
I think a lot
get into
of
the
people seen the purple
Yeah,
color changing gins. There's a few of them in the UK. Obviously, there's a big one out of Canada, and those are popular because they're fun. They're making that gin and tonic, really just wow, and I just wanted to see that extend into more places. Let's get the margaritas and the martinis.
Yeah.
Because those are my preferred, go-to beverages. Like, I love a good mule. And so the fact that it's gold and purple and, it started off blue, it's a fun way to make a different type of mule. And we've all had the copper lug mule now.
Yeah.
So it's just a different way to do it. Obviously, we're Huskies. We like our purple and gold. So it just, my wife's a Husky too. So it fit right in with the colors of our city. We like to say it pours Mariner blue and it turns Husky purple, and that T-Mobile pink,
There you go. There you go.
That's pretty good.
So, there we are.
Get the Mariner Martini going.
And I'm assuming that the butterfly pea flower can only really have any sort of benefit with a clear spirit, not a, we don't
really want to mess with the age.
Yeah, sure.
One, because the age spirits are really trying to give you a premium tasting spirit because it's, they're getting all the flavors from that aging process.
Sure.
This experience isn't trying to deliver that experience.
Yeah.
This experience is trying to deliver the visual, the color, the wow, the fireworks, happy party, birthday party
experience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For the savory cocktail or for sitting down, there's a different brands for those experiences.
Yeah.
We're playing, more playful, more fun than taking it so serious.
And it's really good too.
Yeah.
I mean, that tequila was fantastic.
Yeah, totally. No, it's still got to taste great, but it can just
Totally.
be a tequila soda too. It doesn't need to have 6 or 7 ingredients to be considered fun or quality. You can enjoy tequila sodas all day and not feel like you're missing out on not having old fashions.
Yeah. But I think of like the old school, like layered cocktails of like a tequila sunrise or a Mai Tai or something. But those are lots of syrups and heavy and lots of juices and, ingredients that sometimes people are looking for that leaner flavor profile. But this definitely gives that same cool kind of presentation that you might want to have.
Category drinks.
Sure.
Well, and that's the unique thing is, when you gave us that shot, it obviously immediately changed colors and the whole thing changed colors, but you can go ahead and layer to provide that really cool aesthetic.
It gives you lots of ways to layer or cascade things. Totally.
Yeah.
Mix with different spirits and see it change different colors. Like for some, it won't change the color at all. It'll stay blue. Some change it instantly purple. So it depends on the cocktail you're shaking up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, delicious. So tell me, 2018 is when you had the idea, right? Were you just working in tech?
Didn't have the idea in 18, had the discovery in 18.
As a discovery.
Find this tea flower, and this is really cool. I'm with a background in beverage, but we're currently working in tech at the time. I have no interest in going back into beverage, but I find this tea flower and have this really cool drinking experience. And kind of going back to your point, like we're not competing against the old fashions. It's just for certain occasions, this is going to be a little better. You're going to want the old fashioned in certain other occasions. And when I had that occasion at that hotel and that resort, and it was a gin and tonic, it was cool. I just wanted to see it jump the shark. And so I come back to the U.S. and I'm playing around with it and trying to get the vodka soda to be, that way. And it's purple vodka. And when I put the tea flower in, any of the vodkas I buy at Total Wine, it's different colors of purple and trying to sort through why is it this way. But then when you put it in water, it's blue. And so kind of really figuring out that it's about the acidity of the base spirit. And that's how we can create this blue-purple kind of contrast that's where it then becomes more of like, oh, okay, hey, this is not just a discovered cool thing. I'm going to actually like maybe get back into beverage here and back out of tech. And that's more like 2020 that happens because the pandemic happened and we're all sitting at home bored and going,
So
what else can we
Whatever.
let's dive into that a little bit though, because the audience doesn't really know much about your background and the fact that you were in tech and then obviously you become an entrepreneur and, going through that process. What was that like for you to kind of jump into that entrepreneurial world?
I'd done it before. I worked at Caesars and T-Mobile, ironically, when I first came out of college, and I left to go start a brewery and a cider company. And, gave those things a whirl, and they were great experiences, but they didn't overall, become massive household brands. And luckily connected with a tech company that was on the eve of becoming a unicorn. It was worth like $700 million at the time. Now it's worth many billions of dollars. It's traded publicly on the stock market. If you find me on LinkedIn, you'll find the company I'm talking about, kind of a thing. And it was a fantastic experience. 200 people working hard, all going the same direction. Like that culture, that's the West Coast version of Wall Street, right? That's that unicorn tech hyper-growth grow culture is great. And so we wanted to embrace that ideology into the brand, but obviously my passion was beverage. I mean, that was where I was, right? And so when I saw the tea flower, I saw the opportunity in vodka, then you dig into this rabbit hole more, and the FDA doesn't have it legal. That doesn't actually happen until 2021. So when I'm starting in 2020 and I'm playing around with my vodka brands, it's not even legal, but I know it's going to be because it's legal in Australia, it's legal in Canada, it's legal in the UK, it's been legal in the East for hundreds of years, Vietnam, Singapore, China, hundreds of years, right? So it's not going to hurt anybody. We knew that, but the FDA had never had a reason to. And a petition had been filed with the FDA that was pending. And I knew that was a pending loophole, that once that got passed, the TTB would start allowing producers to come out with this. And I wanted to be ready. And it was the pandemic, so I had a little bit of free time. And so why not work on this brand that you think, who knows when this is going to become legal, but we know it's going to eventually, right? And that's really we start taking the blue liquid we have and start trying to wrap it into a bottle, put a brand on it, put all the pieces you see today.
Okay.
That's cool.
So who spearheaded that FDA approval? Was that?
It was a color company, I believe, in St. Louis, and they sell natural food colorings. And that's what's cool about this is blue is to your point, a difficult color. When you try about those tropical drinks, and you think blue, it's artificial, it's blue curacao, it's sugar sweet or hypnotic. I'm not trying to hurt those brands. Brands are great, right? For their purpose, but they're overly sugary and sweet, and the hangovers lead to rough experiences sometimes. And so people are having 1 or 2 and not 10, right, or whatever. I'm not encouraging anybody to drink 10 of it in, but you know what I'm saying. Like, so this is a fun way to get blue into all kinds of things, not just alcohol beverages. That's why this color company is all about it, and they are the ones who funded the whole FDA, challenge essentially of, hey, you should relook at this ingredient. Right. Here's some new testing. Here's some new things going on with it. It's really food and travel bloggers and Instagram posts from those folks that we have to thank for the West's discovery of this, right? Those Instagram posts of them traveling to the East where it's used in all the different milk teas and to make blue sticky rice and things like that. That's really how we saw the tea flower get popular in the West.
Cool.
Yeah.
Amazing. You must have went through a lot of taste testing. Are you the only taste tester? Or do you have some?
No, I definitely had. I think I had plenty of friends. As well.
Exactly. So was there a point, I'm curious, just, right, it's tough to leave, right, a well-paid sales job, right? You're starting something completely entrepreneurial. Were you doing things side by side in parallel? At what point did it become like, okay, for this to be viable, I'm going all in?
Yeah.
Tell us more about that.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was definitely a forced, off the cliff moment for me. I was part of the Salesforce layoffs in early 23. Great experience at Salesforce, was there for 3 years, working at Slack, et cetera. Sales, as been told in tech, they way overhired. They never had a book for me when they hired me, but they were willing to pay me a lot more than said unicorn company that was paying. So I went and sat around for, until they said, don't sit around anymore. You guys paid me to come here and sit around. So great, which gave me more time to, continue to build and work and improve where my passion was while that was going. So, happy to see that it wound down. Tech was great. It was a great chapter for me. Gave me the sales skills and the B2B sales skills and the confidence that I have now in selling large enterprise buyers and how to do that. So I'm very grateful for the experience, but it's not where my passion is, and therefore I'm never going to reach my peak aptitude there, And so while tech's great, and if I ever have to go back into tech and things like that, please, future employers, don't look at this. But, it was a great chapter that I'm happy to have been through, and I'm very happy in my current world and industry.
In a little preparation for this podcast, I found an article about you, and it was like a 30 under 30 people breweries, right?
I'm old now.
Well, I didn't do any calculations in my head, but the picture, I was like, wow. So, but I think it's cool, and I think, if you could expand on it a little bit, I mean, so you before you did a cider business, and then you also started a brewing company, right? So you've been in a couple different spaces within selling alcohol. So, but then you're also hireable in high-paying tech jobs. So that's kind of awesome that you're willing, though, to keep on kind of going back into it, on both ways to see what's working for you to kind of get back to your passion. So, at a younger age, what made you go, because I'm sure you got out of school and did you start brewing then, or what made you
really
the entrepreneurial?
I grew up in Southern California to parents who were huge into the Napa wine craze in the 80s and the 90s, and they would take trips up with their friends. And I can remember as a young kid, we would be getting babysitted because the parents were up in wine country, right? So I knew good food, I knew good wine, and I grew up in that bubble. And so, come to college, you realize that yet not everybody grows up with knowing how cheese and wine pairings work, which is obviously was a little bit of a shock to me. College level food,
right?
I get through it, and craft beer is just going nuts up here, right? And that's like early 2000s, and I just fall in love with craft beer. I can't get enough of it, and so that ultimately ends up to me working at some of the breweries in the area, doing apprenticeships while working at the T-Mobiles and things of that nature. I've kind of that working at Salesforce and Smartsheet while working at I said the company. Working at this. I've been doing that since I was in my 20s. In terms of chasing my passion while having a full-time job, because that's just what it takes. Like, you got to keep both those careers running and past running to give yourself the optionality. And there's enough time to do it all. There's just not a lot of time.
To do it.
Otherwise, kind of a thing, right?
Right.
I take a lot of vacations. I don't spend a lot of time on things that are not related to my pursuit of these things,
Cool.
And that's just what I like to do, though. It's like, so my hobby is this, so, right?
Right.
It's like if golf was your hobby, this is my golf.
Yeah.
Right?
It's your passion.
Yeah, and I just take it to a level that's more than 5-gallon brew tanks anymore.
Right. I found that pretty impressive.
Seems like the most successful entrepreneurs, we've had quite a few good ones on this show, right? They've all won kind of maybe often bootstrap their business, right? And they've also done it in their off hours, right? Until they kind of got to a point where it was viable, right? And it really just starts with a passion.
Yeah.
And then you just go on in parallel, until suddenly it doesn't make sense to go in parallel, whether your hand is forced, right? Or whether or not it's time to exit and move on and commit and go all in.
It's a scalability thing. I mean, obviously, it's a labor of love for you. You're doing every single thing that the business requires, but then for you to get to that next level, you need to bring in more people, and then you kind of shift your role and
Get experience, but doing things.
Yeah.
You don't learn anything by not trying. The failures of my first beverage companies absolutely have made how I done this different, better. Mm-hmm. It's already lasted way longer. I mean, in terms of like, there's definitely learning. Don't chase trends that are here today. Go start the hype of the next one, because if it's already at the peak, you're not going to get there. It's like non-alcoholic or ready to drink cocktails right now. Don't start a new brand. The world's got enough of them. Like they're fighting it out. They can't figure out who's going to be on the shelf right now. They don't need a new player who's coming in underfunded. Mm-hmm. There's guys who've already got 7-10 million into those spaces, trying to figure out what they're going to do with those businesses. Tough categories to get into right now. I would be looking somewhere everybody else isn't, where you can bootstrap into the category and go create some white space. Other people can come at the tea flower category, but they're not going to be able to do vodka, tequila, rums, and all of these without a new brand. They could replicate it in one of the categories, but they're not going to be able to really champion the whole experience. And that's what we're pursuing. But if it works or it doesn't, at least it's white space we alone are going to know, we have.
There's a lot of value to being the first mover too. I mean,
Totally.
I just think it's cool that with the brewery business, you started that and you said you learned a lot of lessons. That didn't discourage you from saying, okay, I'm going to go back into, not even the brewery business, but back into spirits, which is different, right? I'm sure the margins are different, the production's different.
Yeah, there's still a lot of similarity, but obviously there's some differences. But the actually more similarities than differences, just in terms of the regulatory process of getting a beer on the shelf,
right?
And a spirit. Well, you're still going to the TTB, you're still going to the same places for that. So that's what gave me the confidence to get back into this. Because had I not done a brewery or a cidery, there's no way I would have had the confidence to take a tea flower and create a vodka tequila brand with it. But because I had all that experience in the background, I was like, fine, I'll do that. Like that, I could be the one who does that, because I know I would leverage thousands of hours I have in that world again, and it was a chance to apply those skills and knowledge that I wasn't applying in tech, that I felt was wasted in tech because I was just a sales guy. It was great. I learned how to be good at that, but I obviously knew how to do accounting, and I'm a master's accounting from UW. Like I'd done that. Like I've got a few other skills other than sales. I just hadn't done sales yet. Still suck at marketing for the broad part. I worked in marketing, and hats off to the great marketers, because that push-pull dynamic is needed, but I don't have the skills or the patience for the pull side of it. So
Well, the name is great. The story behind the name, right? Was that hard to come up with?
It wasn't. The authentic credit is it just comes from a fan having a previously branded version of it and just saying, oh, it's Unicorn vodka, right?
Yeah.
And that kind of was the catalyst for it. The dad joke is it's a unique corn vodka. So it's which is people love a good dad joke, especially in this crowd. That was safe. Yeah. So, but really, it was about that lifestyle we're talking about, right? That both my wife and I had come from companies that were going IPO, hitting that $1 billion benchmark, and in tech, that means you become a unicorn, and that's a terminology that's kind of really meant to represent that culture of building the next generation of technologies and things like that, and that is standing out from the crowd. That is celebrating change. That is a lot of the things that is all natural. That is authentic growth, and we loved all of that part of it, and it just was a no-brainer. Honestly, it took 20 minutes to change names once we kind of had these pieces together, but it took 6 months to get the pieces together.
That's awesome. So for the viewers, where can they find Unicorn? Is it are certain places carrying it? You got a favorite bartender out there who's making cocktails?
Well, actually, the best way this works is you go to your favorite place and ask for it. That would be doing me the best favor. Like, whatever bottle shop, bar you go to, ask them about it. Ask them to get it. If you're in Washington, RNEC is our distributor. Get bottles going. But Total Wine has it. There's a lot of Safeway and Albertsons that have it. So that'll be the easiest place to grab bottles. And then you can go to a lot of really good restaurants around town to find it as well. We're by the stadium at a few spots, over in Bellevue at a couple of different spots. Shout out Bellevue, W, Seattle. And we've had a couple of great parties with the W hotels, and we'll probably have a few more.
Yeah, that party was awesome. So I know a lot of the audience here, you guys might have some connections and you want to see Unicorn vodka or Unicorn tequila carried there. So if you've got a connection and you want to introduce Rick to somebody, hit us up on this podcast. He'd be happy to. So in the meantime, while this is all going on, Seattle real estate goes through a pandemic, and then you give me a call and you go like, hey, I want to buy my neighbor's house.
Well, actually, I think I called you saying I want to buy a condo.
Right.
As an investment?
Well, the money was cheap, and we were full on in a remodel on the house, or we were thinking about it. We got the architects engaged, and they're talking about building 2 stories up, and you're going to need to move out of this house if we're going to tear the roof off of it. And so I'm like, well, where are we going to live for this year and a half? And maybe we want a condo or something like this. And this is, when was this? This is early 21, right? So right around early mid 21, and no kidding, I get off the phone call with him and I come home, and the neighbors are moving out next door, and they've been there for 7 years. Renters had been living there for 7 years. And
literally was that fast.
It was that crazy, right? And the guy comes over who owns the house, and he's like, yeah, renters just moved out. He's like on our deck at our house. I'm having a Unicorn cocktail, waiting for Helena. We're going to Kirkland to go to dinner. And he just comes over talking about the fence, wanting to fix the fence between our properties. Well, 45 minutes later, I'm making an offer on the house in his kitchen, saying, hey, you don't want to remodel. You don't want to do any of this paintwork. You don't want to do any of this landscaping. Like, no. And I'm about to start a construction project next door, and you're going to put new tenants in. Like, you don't want to do that either. Yeah. I think that's a bad idea. I think you should sell me this house. And he did, and that was great. And that was awesome. It was an off-market, quick deal. I called you right back. I'm like, so actually,
let's pivot here.
I'm going to close this house tomorrow. I'd already written the check for earnest money, before it was done.
Wow.
It was I was ready to close this guy. I was like, let's go.
Yeah.
So it worked out.
It's a salesperson.
Yeah. I saw the deal, man. It was good to pass. And so now we were able to put together this nice big lot in Portage Bay, which gives us room for 2 cars, and just some of the amenities you would normally get on a lot on the east side. But you're right there by the Portage Bay area. So
yeah. I mean, so tell us more about the why, why you thought it made sense. Give a little window to our viewers about, what your decision process was in deciding to do that.
Well, overall, we were fortunate enough to have the means, right? And it wasn't that we were going to, we were looking to either get a bigger house or move because the house we were in was too small. So the timing was right in that we were either going to build up on the house we were in, or in this case, moved horizontally instead of vertically, right? But so timing was just perfect. We were looking, we had been active, we knew what the market was. We'd already been kind of 6 months in. The zigzag was great because at that time, everybody was leaving, going to the east side or leaving the state. I'm like, man, the city's going to come back at some point. This is still Seattle. This is still a port. This is still where the teams of the stadiums and the UW and all the yachts, this is still Seattle. So, living in Seattle, we thought it was great because, it was like everybody left. We had the city to ourselves, and we were very happy there. So we didn't want to go to a bigger lot in Snohomish or Woodinville. Thus was what was pushing us vertical. And so, yes, I think timing was a big part of it. And then, it's got waterfront views. I think buy grade A locations is, the first, second, and third rule of real estate. And then probably the fourth rule, grade A dirt never goes down, and bad times right now, grade A dirt still has never gone down. Our dirt's great, and we didn't buy nice improvements. They were very modest improvements, less than 20% of the value of the house was the actual improvements on the dirt. So we gave us options. We can build them up. We can keep them rentals. We can sell them as they are. There's so much we can do when you're not buying something that's brand new construction and the dirt's 50% or 60% of what you're paying for, right? And so that was probably the biggest catalyst for us, was just the timing and the investment in the good dirt.
I think I think a big takeaway there is, being ready to jump into something and being definitive with your actions. You obviously saw this opportunity, or like that's what we're doing. You made the switch. You said you were going to go for a condo. You then get into your neighbor's house, and I mean, it all happened very quickly. But that's just, I think.
There, by the way, now.
Yeah, exactly.
No need
Yes.
to divide it, right?
Got the keys.
Love it.
So,
See you later.
yeah, I mean, like for the audience, right? As you guys have seen, right? Rick is an innovator, but anything that he's doing is not short-term thinking, right? So I think that's kind of a lot of the maybe challenges that people get worried about. The decision, does it make sense today? Does it make sense in the next year? These decisions play out over time, right? And that's where the value gets generated over 3, 4, 5 years, whether you're talking about real estate investments, you're talking about investing in a business like this.
Yes, I was. Somebody was telling me about a podcast the other day. Shout out Jeff Bezos, was saying that it's more about what stays the same than what changes. Like, people are always going to want low prices. People are always going to want fast, like, delivery. Like, he is really focused on what is not going to change, less focused on what's changing, right? And I think that's an interesting principle of how their mindset works. That, yeah, I think goes into a lot of why I try to think long term on things. Is like, you want to have that figured out before you get in, especially in real estate. It's all in the buy. If you buy it at market price, then you have to sell it above market price. Well, how are you going to do that? You're going to have to find someone who wants to pay more,
or hold on to it.
Yeah, or hold on to it, right? And so finding someone who wants to pay more, you got to find someone who, doesn't care, like, wants it really bad. And that's a smaller buyer pool. It's better to sell it at market value, meaning it's easier to wait and buy something below market value and get out at market value than it is to try to buy at market and get out above. So it's definitely wake up with day one money and know how much money you made the day you sign that paper. Like, that's principle too.
And to clarify, I think, the word market value is essentially what someone's willing to pay at any given time, right? But what the true value of something is, like, we've obviously gone through a slower real estate market recently where prices have flatlined, if not decreased a little bit. But I think the biggest factor in our market was that there wasn't enough buyer activity due to higher rates. And so therefore it was kind of pushing people out of the market. Yeah. So it was a great opportunity for those who, had the means, number one, but number two, the foresight to realize that, you're able to get something below market value, right? So now we're getting into a situation where it's January 18th and we're starting to see that buyer activity pick up a lot. And so, people are going to be more in tune with picking up properties at market value versus kind of below market value.
I guess I think about, going back to how you talk, like, long-term thinking, right? Since the 90s, houses in my area have only gone up 7% a year for 35 years. So when we had 25% gains in 18 months, I'm definitely telling my wife we're not going to have any gains next year. It's not sustainable. We just took 2 years of gain, just came in this year. We're robbing from the future today.
Correct.
Now, if we want to sell, we should sell, because next year we're not going to have any gains. And sure enough, last year we had 2%. Right. And so it's like, okay, that makes sense, because we had just had 20% of gains over relatively 2 years. We probably still have more to give back. Like, I probably don't go up too much until later part of this year. Like, first half of this year, probably 1 or 2%. But that's fine, because over the long run, 7% a year, this thing's going to double every 8, 9 years. Set them, forget them. Like, they're savings accounts. They're not stocks. You're not trying to pick these things to go 20, 30% a year.
The opportunity.
The transaction costs on these things are too high. You get in and hold good dirt for long periods of time, wake up with day one money, buy it under market. Like, those are some of the principles I use to make sure when I want to be decisive, I'm checking these boxes, or I don't feel decisive.
Makes your decision a lot easier and a lot quicker, right? 'Cause you're checking all those boxes, and you maybe, someone else might give in a little bit because they don't have a house already, right? And they're not looking for an investment. They need a place for themselves to live.
Yeah.
Right. So maybe that takes a little bit more priority than, getting the deal on day one. Right?
Totally. And in sales, tech sales, they teach you get what you want, when you want, for what you want. And you get 2 of the 3.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're saying, hey, I need it right now, well, you just said time then is your one you're going to give. You're going to pay what we tell you for what you want. Because you need it now. Right. But if you're willing to be patient, like I am, that's my third principle for buying, right, is be patient. Wait, know what you're getting. Like, you talk about, like, houses are worth, what they're worth in the moment or in the year. yes and no. It's still relative to what they are in that whole 7% year over year. Like the market was a little high. We were saying, hey, prices are way too high given, and that's, luckily come back a little bit and got checked correctly, because had those just kept going up, that's ridiculous. Like I shouldn't see my house double in 4 years.
Yeah.
Like that's not a healthy and I want to get out of that. That's too volatile. That's not what I'm trying to bank in with these things. These are real estate. They're supposed to be safe, conservative 7%ers every year.
We saw that kind of happen with some markets in particular where the appreciation was so rapid, people were getting really excited about it, and then they were starting to get a little fearful.
Speculative.
Speculative. And a lot of those have kind of rebounded, where they're still in a positive over like a 3-year period. But yeah, I think the balance of where the market is coming back to now is definitely better for everyone. So with your decision, when you were doing your remodel, were you planning on living in that house, or you're going to remodel it to sell it?
Yeah, we were continuing to work with the architects now on that house that we originally had, and still haven't pulled the trigger on new construction because of rates and things. Yeah. So it's in a short-term rental situation at the moment, coming available March 1st. So it's on Craigslist if anybody's looking.
Nice.
But yeah, no, it's probably be that for a few years. Yeah, until the arms come due and we decide what we're going to do here. Are we going to take the equity that we've now made and build up and stick around in Seattle and keep that as a primary? Or do we keep these two as, and that's what's so great is like we got dirt, we didn't buy really houses. So we have a lot of optionality to just also sell them for what they're worth and walk away as just livable rentals right now.
Yeah. See, that's cool as well too. People may not catch this but as an investor here in Seattle, as a landlord, right, there's different ways. You've got short-term rental laws, which are different than long-term rental laws. But Rick is identified as target market, and he's going for it. So tell him a little bit about that. I think it's innovative again. Yeah. To bring back that word innovation and maybe different from traditional thinking.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we know people have got houses and they got lower rates and they're not wanting to move out of those houses, but they're wanting to improve them. And so those sometimes are taking 6-month, 9-month, year-long remodels to kitchens and master baths and things of that nature. So we've really been targeting those individuals who live in our, Seattle, Montlake, Portage Bay, Capitol Hill area who want to stay really close to the 520 and I-5 kind of, corridor. And 6 months while they're getting their kitchen redone, and they can still stay close to home and check on construction, but live with our place and look at the lake for a little bit.
So it's like a modified short-term rental essentially. Yeah, because you're saying it's coming up on March 1st. I mean, Maynard and I own short-term rental properties, and our places are available next week.
Been available since May of last year.
Correct. Yeah.
And this is one of those things where they said it would be 6 and maybe 5. And then they've renewed for 2 months. Yeah, it's after that, because of course construction always takes longer than you think. Right. But it's furnished. It's utilities are paid. So we try to make it really easy for that or the new transplant. Right. We're close to Amazon. We're close to UW. Close to all the medical. Anybody, traveling nurses, doctors, new business executives coming to work in town. We want to be a place that they could land and get their bearings and have the ability to get to Ballard and Bellevue, equidistantly from each other, because that's, important to somebody new in the area, right? Yeah. So that's kind of some of the other things that we lean into when we're looking for tenants.
Well, audience, as you can see, we can talk forever about this. There's so much to talk about. We're at the beginning of 2024. Let's just wrap up real quick and say anything cool that's happening here in Seattle, just that maybe even in the Portage Bay Area. I know you brought that up, that people aren't aware of. These are factors that demonstrate the long-term viability and long-term growth of Seattle and what makes Seattle a great place to live and invest. So you can start, because you have a lot of thoughts.
No, I think Seattle is one of those peak places. It's one of the prettiest places to be for good 4 or 5 months out of the year, and it's so green. It's definitely a hub of commerce for the Northwest, and got just growth in our sports and our culture, our communities, and it's a great place to live.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that we have a hockey team and soon to be the Sonics again, that says it all right there.
Fingers crossed on the Sonics.
Especially fingers crossed, it's happening. It's happening.
Here, you heard it here first.
Breaking news.
My insiders have told me. Any final thoughts, Justin or Michael?
I think one of the things that I'm looking forward to the most in the Seattle area is just the continued improvement of our public transportation system and with light rail, connecting some of the communities that are a little bit further out. I just think it's going to have such a huge impact in our real estate market as well. So it's something I'm really excited about. Yeah.
I mean, I'm always excited to live here. I've always been here. I'll always be here. Yeah. I mean, I think, of course, this is a true Seattleite. I'm already looking forward to Seattle summer, so I'm keeping that in mind.
We're inside right now, and it's still cold in here.
Forward to when it stays light out a little bit later. But
we had a cold weekend.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks, guys. Thanks, Rick, for having us out here. We learned a ton. I know that a lot of people are probably excited again about where to get this favorite bev and give it a shot themselves. So how do they get a hold of you directly if they want to reach you?
UnicornDistillery.com or Unicorn Distillery on Instagram and TikTok. It's a pretty easy way to get a hold of us there. Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome.
You know how to reach us, guys. All right. Take care. We'll see you on the next podcast. Happy 2024.